Putting NFTs in video games is a very divisive topic. If you are someone who loves crypto and NFTs, then you probably think it's a no-brainer that games should start implementing them. And if you are against crypto and NFTs, you probably hate the thought of anything crypto or blockchain related ever touching any game. The truth is that this subject is way more complicated than most people make it out to be. There isn't a quick explanation on if and how we should implement NFTs into some video games. NFT games have become increasingly popular over the last year or so. NFT games, which are also known as play-to-earn or blockchain-based games, are exactly what they sound like. Games that can make you money while you play them. They typically include both cryptocurrencies and NFTs as part of their ecosystem, meaning the way you usually earn money from them is through crypto or NFTs. Many have touted this style of game as the quote-unquote future of gaming, and in some ways, I see where they are coming from. There have been many innovations in gaming that have had rocky starts. Online gaming, DLC, virtual reality, and 3D graphics are just a few examples. But with that being said, play-to-earn and NFT-based games are just not where they need to be to become truly mainstream. When you think of your favorite games, you aren't imagining something that you do for money. You're imagining something that you do for fun. Typically spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on hardware and software just for the ability to play our favorite games. Think of games like Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, and Red Dead Redemption 2. These are some of the most beloved games of the last several years because they are works of art and we love the time we spend playing them. If you have played any of these games, you are probably just reminded of how they made you feel. The excitement of running into a giant, elegantly crafted open world for the first time. The joy of uncovering the story or playing online with friends. All these things make gaming important to so many people in our world today. And there is no doubt in my mind that adding NFTs to these experiences would massively detract from them. NFT games today don't seem to get that games are meant to be a fun pastime. Instead, this new genre of game is built around the idea of incorporating crypto and NFTs rather than using this technology to enhance an idea that is already there. Even the most popular NFT games suffer from this problem. They are so focused on the idea of using blockchain technology they fail to be truly fun or innovative. The biggest NFT-based game, Axie Infinity, while still suffering from this problem, has continued to evolve. With every major update, it is morphing into something that aims to be a truly enjoyable experience, rather than primarily being focused on the NFT and crypto aspects. The sad truth, however, is that without the prospect of making money, many of these games would have much smaller player bases. The appeal is that you can get rich or at least make a decent income from just playing a game, and for some, that has been true. In 2021, a report even mentioned an Axie Infinity player who was able to buy multiple homes in the Philippines because of their profits from the game. But the truth is, for most, these games aren't going to make you rich, and it isn't sustainable to make that the main appeal of them. Instead, it is important to make a game that is actually enjoyable. With all that said, I still believe there could be a place for NFT games in the gaming industry, but that doesn't mean they should be implemented into every game. There is definitely a right and wrong way to do it. Take a look at the history of DLC, for example. There are both very good and very bad examples of DLC being implemented into games. The infamous horse armor incident is a good example of just how bad a potentially good idea can get. In 2006, when DLC and microtransactions were a fairly new concept, Bethesda created some additional content for The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. This DLC was horse armor, literally exactly what it sounds like, just a cosmetic piece of armor that you put on your horse. They were selling this item at the time for $2.50. This seems pretty ridiculous considering the entire game only cost around $60 for potentially hundreds of hours of content. This incident caused an uproar because why would anyone want to pay so much for such a pointless item in a single player game where no one would even see it? This whole idea of DLC and microtransactions has continued to evolve ever since this incident. We have seen many examples of how not to implement DLC into a game. Some video games practically lock required content behind additional purchases. So you pay your $60 and then to get to the good stuff, you'll need to cough up even more money. On the other hand, you have games like The Witcher 3 that show us just how good DLC can really be for a game. The Witcher 3 is already an outstanding game, and DLC allowed them to massively expand it with tons of new content. Both major DLCs for the game are well priced and add so much to the amazing game that is already there. This allowed fans to get more of what they wanted, while the company that worked on the game was able to make additional money off their already existing product. A real win-win situation. We have also seen the emergence of free-to-play games like Fortnite. These games allow anyone to play, but additional cosmetic items can be unlocked if you are willing to pay for them. This has been an overall popular popular way to monetize a game because any purchases made are 100% optional and do not affect how good a player actually is at the game. This should be seen as a lesson for the companies and games looking to implement NFTs and crypto. Does it enhance the idea they already have, or are they just implementing this new technology because they can make more money? This is the worry that many have as game studios announce that they are looking into using NFTs in their future titles. Rightfully, they are worried that this new technology will ruin some of their favorite franchises. No one wants to see a world where every weapon you pick up in Breath of the Wild 2 is its own separate NFT, but I don't think that's going to happen. Game companies have betrayed our trust in the past, so we expect them to do it again, and likely most companies will. And you can guarantee that if EA gets involved with NFTs, it will be an absolute disaster. But more reputable companies like Square Enix, SEGA, and Nintendo have also expressed interest in NFTs to varying degrees, and we can likely expect them to take a more reasonable approach to this technology. So what exactly would be a reasonable way to implement NFTs into video games? The biggest thing is they don't need to be shoehorned into a single player experience. I can't imagine how they would function in a beneficial way in a single player game. I think the side of the gaming industry that would benefit the most from NFTs is through games focused on online multiplayer, especially those online games with a heavy reliance on collectibles and cosmetics. Some good examples would be games like Overwatch, Fortnite, and Warzone. Imagine that all the cosmetic items you buy or collect for free in games are NFTs. You would then be able to sell those items to other players on a marketplace and potentially profit off them. Let's say that a special event was happening for Christmas in Overwatch and an exclusive skin was given to every player that logs in the week of Christmas that year, but it will never be available again after that. Then 2 years later, that skin has become fairly rare and now sells for a few bucks on the Activision Blizzard NFT marketplace. You could sell it and then buy another cosmetic that you actually want. And if these gaming companies get together, this video game NFT marketplace could include all sorts of games, not just ones from a single company. That's only the tip of the iceberg though. This idea could even be expanded farther where NFTs could be used between games owned by different companies. Imagine using a skin from Overwatch in a completely unrelated metaverse game. It's a really cool concept that NFTs could help to power. It's a lot more complicated than it sounds though. There would need to be at least some cooperation from each game. A 3D model used in one game isn't just going to magically work in another. For example, the devs from Overwatch would need to rework each skin to work in this metaverse game, which does take a bit of effort. So why would anyone want to work on making an asset for a game that isn't their own? The answer is residual income. NFTs are often set up in a way where the original creator gets a portion of the proceeds every single time it is sold. So if you buy an NFT Overwatch skin for $10, then Blizzard would get $10. But let's assume that they also get 1% from every single sale after that as well. So if you're able to sell that skin for $100 a year from now, then Blizzard would make another dollar off of doing absolutely nothing. Now imagine there is some highly popular metaverse style game. If Blizzard has a ton of skins and then allows them to be used in that game, it could allow for a lot of additional revenue. People who have never played Overwatch may still want to buy an Overwatch skin off somebody because they can use it in this popular metaverse game, meaning Blizzard will be able to make even more money. These are just some of the potential ideas on how NFTs could be used in gaming. The truth is that this technology is way too new to know where it's actually headed. Many will say that all of the things I have mentioned can all be done without NFTs or blockchain technology, or are not worth doing in the first place. And maybe they are right, but as of now it's way too hard to tell. NFTs and blockchain technology as a whole is a very new concept, and adding them into the gaming industry is even newer. We don't have many examples of what implementing NFTs into games would look like. Games like Axie Infinity and Decentraland feel more like gimmicks than anything else, and potentially interesting projects like The Other Side are still in their early stages of development. Companies like Ubisoft have released platforms like Ubisoft Quartz with the goal of integrating NFTs into their existing games, but they just aren't really interesting or meaningful enough to talk about in depth. There's also a lot of stigma around NFTs and crypto as a whole to begin with. This has caused a lot of companies to stay far away from the space out of fear of being ridiculed by gamers. To be fair, some of the criticisms are well deserved. The crypto space as a whole is very unregulated and many scams exist. But there are also criticisms that boil down to people just not understanding the technology. The largest being that NFTs are destroying the environment. This criticism comes from the fact that proof-of-work systems like Ethereum and Bitcoin use a ton of energy in order to verify transactions. This is completely true, but there are many other blockchains that use proof-of-stake and do not use massive amounts of power to accomplish the same goal. Another point is that these NFTs aren't on the Bitcoin blockchain, and the Ethereum blockchain will be switching over to proof-of-stake at some point in the near future, basically making this argument irrelevant. But the fact remains that the social stigma of it is still there for now, which will likely cause many companies to continue avoiding the technology or work on it in the background until it becomes more socially acceptable to do so. I could even see a world where a major gaming company tries to implement NFTs in some roundabout way and never call them NFTs or mention blockchain. When I started making this video, my goal was to determine if NFTs could really be used in any meaningful way to enhance video games. I figured by the end of it I would be leaning towards one side, but the truth is I still really have no clue. There are a ton of examples of how NFTs could add to video games, but I don't know how feasible they really are, or if the same thing could be achieved without a blockchain. Obviously, there are inherently valuable aspects to using a blockchain like decentralization, but I'm just not sure how important or useful that would be to the gaming industry. I think the main thing here is that it's just too early to tell. Projects like The Other Side are on my radar because they look very promising, but who knows how they will actually turn out. The next few years will likely be rocky as companies try to figure out how to implement NFTs into their games. Some companies will likely make real attempts to implement them into their games in hopes of adding to them, while others will use them to suck as much money out of consumers as they possibly can. Overall, we are just going to have to wait and see what kind of impact NFTs have on the gaming industry.